Christmas at the Hayes estate in the Green Mountains was a tradition as unshakable as the snow on the roof and the creak of the old floorboards. We, all grown up now, me, Ethan, my sister Olivia, our families, would return each year to this huge house smelling of wax and pine needles to perform the same play. Coziness, family, memories, the ring was solid, gilded by time. The first crack we wrote off as coincidence. A year ago, on December 25th at exactly 3 p.m., as everyone sat at the Christmas dinner, the power flickered, not in the whole house, but in the electronics. The digital clock on the oven turned into a dark rectangle, the TV in the living room crackled and died. Even my niece Sophie's tablet, on which she was watching a cartoon, went black, just for a few seconds. Then everything powered back on, bright colors played again on the tablet, the oven blinked midnight, and in the silence we heard only a heavy, rasping breath from the TV speaker. On its screen was a grainy black and white image, our dining room, but not ours. The wallpaper was different, with a large vintage pattern. People sat at the table, a young, stern grandmother Eleanor, as I remembered her only from photos, next to her, two men and a woman, our parents, but decades younger, and him, Uncle Luke, the missing Uncle Luke, spoken of in family whispers. Went into the mountains in a blizzard and never came back on Christmas Eve, 1987. They sat at the same oak table, but they weren't eating, they were all, as one, staring at a single point off camera. To the right, their faces were twisted in pure, silent horror. Grandmother's hand was pressed to her mouth. Luke was slowly rising from the table, his chair scraping back with a crash. Then the image jerked and vanished. It all lasted less than a minute. Signal glitch, I said, the most rational one in the family. Old wiring, signal interference, satellite mix-up. Everyone nodded. Too quickly, we finished the turkey in tomb-like silence and never spoke of it again. But I saw Olivia secretly Googling something on her phone, and our father, usually talkative, silently stared into the fire. An unsolvable riddle. Logic said this couldn't happen, but we all saw it. The next year we gathered again, as if trying to prove nothing had happened, and at 2:59 p.m. I caught myself watching the clock. At exactly 3, it repeated, the same outage, the same black and white broadcast, only this time the transmission lasted longer. We saw Luke, his face pale under a layer of static, step from the dining room into the study, the very room right next door, where we were now sitting. The camera seemed to float after him, unsteady, as if someone was carrying it. The study door was ajar. On the threshold, Luke froze, looking inside, then stepped in. Sharply, sounds followed, a dull thud, something heavy falling, the shatter of glass, and a scream, not Luke's, someone screaming, choked and desperate. Then silence, broken only by tape hiss, and that's when I noticed it, just before the image died. Our Aunt Margaret, now happily living in Florida, sitting at the table in 1987, made a characteristic gesture, fidgeting with a strand of hair by her temple with her right hand, exactly like my mother does when she's nervous. And the posture of our young father, head bowed, precisely mirrored my brother Ethan's posture. A silent witness. The threat never named names, but the hints were monstrously clear. Blood and gestures were passed down, and some of those sitting in that room in 87 were here. Among us a heavy, unspoken accusation hung in the air. We began eyeing each other sideways. Olivia quietly asked our father what really happened to Luke. He exploded, which he never did. The children felt the tension and clung to their parents. By the third year we could no longer ignore it. We decided to meet the anomaly head-on. Our plan was brilliant in its simplicity. During the fateful window, the broadcast grew longer each year. We would all, every one of us, remain in the living room, in plain sight of each other and several recording smartphones, an alibi for the whole house. We wanted to break the loop, prove we weren't part of this nightmare. December 25th, 2:58 p.m., we sat in the living room, unnaturally stiff, like in a group photo. The children were frightened by our seriousness. I watched the clock on my phone, 2 hours 59 minutes and 50 seconds. 55:59 exactly. At 3 p.m. the lights flickered again, the TV screen went dark, then lit up with the same ominous gray glow, but this time the image was in color, clear, modern. On the screen was our living room, our current living room, with today's Christmas tree, our today's sweaters, and ourselves. We sat on the same sofas and chairs, with the same frozen, tense expressions. We were watching the TV screen within the frame, and on that TV, inside the broadcast, was another image, too small to make out. My brain refused to process it. Broken causality. We were watching ourselves in real time, but through an anomalous broadcast. This wasn't a trace of the past, this was a live stream of the present, trapped in a loop. And then, the worst part, on the screen, our digital copy. I on the sofa, slowly, with a sickening, mechanical smoothness, turned my head, not toward anyone else sitting there in the recording, but directly at the camera, directly at me, watching from the screen. Its lips, my lips, stretched into a wide, unnatural, not mine smile, and all the other thems in the recording did the same. The children, the parents, Olivia, all 7 pairs of eyes stared straight into the lens, and 7 identical, alien smiles leered at us from 1987, 2023, or some other merged time. Someone shrieked, the transmission cut out, the room was filled with my nieces crying. I could feel myself shaking. The next day, when everyone had calmed a little, Olivia, the most thorough among us, went to inspect the fireplace in the study, the very room Luke had entered. Behind the old, never-used logs, she found it, a blackened, charred block covered in dust and cobwebs, the brain of a mid-80s home security system. A homemade, crude antenna made of thick copper wire was soldered to it. We took it to an IT specialist we knew. He turned the block in his hands and whistled a primitive but powerful repeater and recording device on magnetic cores. A thing capable of accumulating a strong electromagnetic impulse, a surge of emotion, stress, maybe even a death energy discharge, like an audio cassette, but for atmospheric phenomena under certain conditions, a confluence of time, temperature, planetary alignment. Who the hell knows? It can play this imprint back, broadcasting it, but how could it record us now? I asked, paling. The specialist frowned. If it's not broken, but just operating, then it could have started recording a new signal, your reaction to the old recording, creating layers, a feedback loop. It's consuming your present to supplement its past. We sold the house, quickly and cheaply, on the day of the first showing to prospective buyers, a young couple from Boston. I secretly went inside. It was quiet, no glitches. The electronics worked flawlessly. I breathed a sigh of relief I hadn't felt in years. A month later, our realtor forwarded me a strange email from the new owner. He politely inquired if there had ever been any issues with the wiring or optical illusions. He attached a photograph, a selfie he'd taken in the study on their first evening after moving in. He was smiling at the camera, the same fireplace behind him, and in the dark, unlit corner of the fireplace, partially hidden by the carving, was the clear silhouette of a person. Tall, thin, not Luke, a silhouette the buyer swore was not in the room at the time. On the back of the photo the buyer had written, "Seems your house likes to keep mementos of its guests," and he'd written the date, January 25th, exactly 1 month after Christmas. The cycle, it seemed, was accelerating, and it had a new participant. The move to San Francisco was supposed to be a fresh start, new skyscrapers, new air smelling of ocean and expensive coffee, a new job in a glass tower with a view of the bridge, its color almost always hidden by November fog. When the HR manager, Catherine, with a beaming smile announced the traditional Christmas Secret Santa game, I saw it as a chance to fit in, to become one of them in this city of polite yet distant smiles, the ring of normality I so desperately wanted to close around myself. The first package was sweet, a small box on my desk Friday morning. Inside, an expensive, warm mug from a local roastery and a pack of my favorite tea, Earl Grey with bergamot. I smiled. Someone had noticed I always drank it after lunch. Cute, attentive. The card was printed, "To keep you warm in our fog, happy holidays. Your Secret Santa." The second gift came right to my apartment in Russian Hill. The concierge, used to packages, handed me a small, neatly wrapped box. Inside, packed in old newspaper, was a Christmas ornament, vintage, made of thin colored glass, an angel with a sad, time-worn face and tiny mother-of-pearl wings. The air around me grew thick and heavy. I recognized it instantly. It was one of those angels that hung on our big tree in the living room back in Milwaukee every Christmas. The very one whose wingtip I, as a child, had broken off in 1998. Mom had almost cried, but then said, "It's okay, now it's unique, ours," and here, in a box in San Francisco, it was, with that same broken, carefully reglued wingtip. My hand shook as I turned over the card, handwriting this time, uneven, angular, in ink. "No, you miss home, it misses you too." A silent witness. The threat didn't shout, it showed me evidence that couldn't be refuted. It demonstrated knowledge so deeply personal it couldn't be found online. Who could know this? Who could have this? I called my mom, her voice trembled. "Kira, sweetheart. That angel, it went missing last winter when we took the tree down. We thought a vase fell and it shattered, but we never found the pieces. I didn't want to upset you. The third gift was addressed to the office, an A5 envelope, inside, a photograph, me, around 8 years old, in an awful plaid dress, with 2 braids and a wide smile missing a front tooth, a school photo, the kind that only existed in our family album on the top shelf in Milwaukee, never scanned, never posted online, on the back, the same handwriting. Always so sunny. Even in December I started checking everything, social media privacy settings, friend lists, location tags, everything was locked down. I hadn't posted old childhood photos. Rational explanation crumbled to dust. The fourth delivery was the most terrifying in its simplicity. The next morning, on my desk, lay a ticket, not a printout, but a real, slightly worn paper ticket for the Oriental Theater in Milwaukee, a 7:30 p.m. showing of Home Alone. The date: December 24th of last year. I had sat in that theater exactly 1 year ago, with my parents and younger brother. We laughed, ate popcorn. It was our tradition. The next step was instinctive. I sat at my laptop and started frantically checking activity history across all accounts. Then I dug into the trash folder of the email client that automatically synced with my work computer, and I found them emails. Dozens of draft emails, created at different times over the past 5 years. All deleted, but not yet permanently erased by the system, all addressed to some ICQ number I didn't recognize, all written in my name. They weren't letters, but reports, meticulously detailed, minute by minute. December 24th, 6 p.m, family gathered, mom cooking turkey, dad putting on A Christmas Story, smell of cinnamon and fir. 7:15 p.m, left for the movies, I'm wearing the blue sweater, Oriental Theater, Screen 3. December 25th, a year earlier, 10 a.m, opening presents, grandma gave me a scarf, I pretended to like it. December 26th, 3 years ago, fight with mom because I didn't want to visit aunt. It was a diary of my holidays, verbatim, with details even I had forgotten. Someone had been watching, someone had been recording, and then, years later, neatly placed these reports into the drafts of my email, like archival folders. An unsolvable riddle. Logic broke. How could anyone know such deep, intimate details without being a ghost or a cartoon hacker? How could they physically break into my past home in Milwaukee and steal a trinket, then infiltrate my digital life here and now? It defied itself, yet remained within the realm of the possible, and that made it not just unsettling, but bone-chillingly terrifying. At work, I was shaking. I waited for the office party, the finale of this game where everything would be revealed, where I would see this person's face, demand an explanation, maybe even throw cold coffee in it. The host for the evening was our cheerful department head, Mike. He tapped a spoon against his glass, calling for attention, friends. Before we start our holiday madness, a quick announcement. I stared at him, clutching the glass angel in my sweaty palm as evidence I know many of you were looking forward to the Secret Santa reveal. Mike smiled, but, due to technical reasons, the game this year was cancelled. The decision was made a week ago, after some privacy complaints. So if you prepared gifts, just give them freely, from the heart. Silence in the room first held confusion, then gave way to a hum of voices and chuckles. Someone yelled, "Oh, so that's why I never got a name." My legs went weak. I leaned against the cold wall. Cancelled, a week ago, so all these gifts. All these messages. This wasn't a corporate prank, this was someone else, someone using the game as cover, a legal pretext to get close to me. The game was being played outside the office. The game was for me alone. A change in the rules. First, it was a supposedly harmless corporate tradition. Now the rules had shifted. This was a hunt. I don't remember getting home. Paranoia was a fog so thick I could barely make out faces on the subway. Every man seemed like him. Every shadow moved with threat. The final delivery waited on the mat by my door, a fairly large, flat box. Inside was no gift, just 2 items on black velvet, a note, and a plastic hotel key card from the Queen Anne, one of those old Victorian hotels. The handwriting was the same, ink, game over, you were the best gift, waiting in the lobby, room 1225, you know the number. I knew, December 25th, the room number was the date. He was waiting for me on Christmas. This was too much, too explicit, too literal. These were no longer hints, this was a summons to the lair. I wasn't going. I dialed 911, my voice broke. I babbled about a stalker, gifts, email hacking, the hotel, the dispatcher. A woman spoke calmly. 2 calmly, we'll send a patrol to check the address. Ma'am, stay in your residence, do not approach the location. I waited, wrapped in a blanket by the window, watching the city lights. 40 minutes later, they called back, an officer, a male voice, tired. Indifferent miss, we checked room 1225 at the Queen and, it's empty, no signs of occupancy, bed made, everything clean, no personal effects but the key card. The note. I stammered, card is inactive, homemade job, he said, likely someone's idea of a bad joke, be more careful on social media, have a good evening. They hung up, a joke, they wrote it all off as a joke but I couldn't stop, I had to see. I took a taxi to the hotel. It was a large, old-fashioned building on Sutter Street. I stood across the street, in shadow, watching the lit stained glass of the lobby, then my phone vibrated. The hotel support desk was messaging that, per police request, they were providing additional info. At the time of the check, there was indeed one item on the bed. They considered it left by a previous guest and had sent it to Lost and Found. A photo was attached, taken by the officer. On the perfectly white pillow lay a stuffed rabbit, with one torn-off ear, mended with blue thread. Lost during the move, had searched for it for a month, tore through all the boxes, never found it. Buzzy, my old stuffed rabbit. The one I slept with from age 5 to 15. He was here, he was waiting for me in that empty room. I stepped back into the shadows, feeling the world tilt. He wasn't just watching, he was penetrating my past home, my digital trail, and now he could be here, in this hotel which itself had a reputation for unexplained stories. I remembered the hotel bar, it would be open. I don't know what drove me there, a thirst for proof. A desire to see something real. I went through a side entrance, slipped into the bar's dim light. A few people were there. I pressed against the bar, trying to breathe evenly, and I saw the TV screen behind the bar. It was quietly showing security camera feeds, the lobby view, the entrance. The bartender was wiping something down, the feed switched, an external view of the driveway, black and white. People came out, went in, and then I saw him. He was leaving the hotel, a man in a dark coat, a hat pulled low over his eyes. He was carrying a flat box, just like the one that came to me. He walked unhurried, confidently, and just before turning the corner, he paused for a second and looked up, straight at the camera. His face wasn't visible, just the shadow of the hat brim, but his posture was expressive. He stood and watched, right at me, sitting in the bar, as if he knew I was here, and watching. The feed switched again. I rushed to the exit, burst onto the street. The corner was empty, just a street lamp casting yellow light on wet asphalt. The next day, after filing an official police report, the detective assigned to the case called me. New unpleasant note had entered his voice. Miss Lennox, we ran additional checks, requested information from Milwaukee, there, at the address across from your parents' house. An apartment has been rented for the last 3 years, the tenant paid on time, in cash, through a realtor. None of the neighbors really saw him. The realtor describes him as a quiet gentleman. The apartment was vacated a month ago, right before your move here. Upon inspection, it was completely empty, no furniture, no belongings, just a tripod standing in the living room, on the floor, and on the windowsill, aimed directly at the windows of your old bedroom. We found. He paused. We found a very high-quality telephoto lens, and a stack of printouts, photographs of your family over the last 3 Christmas seasons, including photographs taken inside the house. Through the window I was silent, my mouth was dry. It appears, the detective said, he was practicing, preparing, and now the game has moved to the next level. Be extremely cautious, we'll increase patrols in your area. I sit now in my new, supposedly safe apartment in San Francisco and look out the window. The fog is thickening, turning the city lights into blurred, ghostly smears. I feel his gaze. He's not in the apartment across the way, he might not even be in the city anymore, but his gaze is with me always now. He unwrapped my life like a Christmas present, layer by layer, down to the core, and the most terrible part is, I still don't know what he wants, or when he'll decide the game is finally, truly over. For now, I wait for the next Christmas, and what I fear now isn't the gifts, but the silence, because silence is now the loudest thing I have. The Christmas Eve shift at the Holiday Hope line was usually a stream of lonely old folks, slightly tipsy sentimentalists, and a couple of genuine crisis cases we'd reroute to the professionals. Me, Liam, a psych student, sitting in a tiny Toronto office, Twinkly lights outside the window, listening to another story about broken families. The ring of normality, however sad at 3 in the morning. When the calls had dried up, one more came through. I picked up, expecting another whisper about lost love. Hello, you've reached the Hope line. This is Liam. How can I help you? There was sound on the line, not silence, but a steady, distant noise, like a blizzard howling through a telephone receiver. Then a voice, a man, maybe 40, calm, even tired. Finally, hello, my name is Noah. I suppose I need help. I'm stuck. Where? In a car. An elevator. My hand automatically reached for the emergency services form. No, not exactly. I'm stuck in time, in the same day. For me, it's December 25th, 1998, and the only thread of connection to anything else seems to be this number. I rolled my eyes. Another city crazy or a drunk philosopher? I see, I said in a professionally neutral tone. Can you tell me more? He described the blizzard, not today's light snow, but the old one, the one that paralyzed the city in '98, something I vaguely remembered from childhood news. He described his apartment on Girard Street, the view of the not-yet-built condo from his window, a tree with tinsel and glass sled ornaments. They went out of fashion by the early 2000s, right? His voice was so convincing, so normal, no drama or madness in it, just a flat, faded by despair truthfulness. When I, to test him, said, but today is December 25th, 2023, he sighed softly. For you, yes. For me, no. Your helpline, it was supposed to close in 1999, after the incident with the counselor. Check your archives, Liam, please. In the phone book here, in 1998. Your number is the last one in the column. There's nothing else to dial. An unsolvable riddle. His words logically formed an impossible picture. Skepticism fought curiosity. After the call, under the pretext of a break, I dug into our organization's deep archive, and I found it, a dry line in the historical notes. The Holiday Hope Line project operated from 1995 to 1999, closed following an internal investigation. No details given. A chill ran down my spine. Coincidence? An elaborate hoax? His next call came the same night. Liam, you checked? I know. His voice was quieter. I need to tell you something. Here, in my Christmas, you're in the paper. A small piece on page 3 of the Toronto Star. Volunteer student Liam Carroll reported missing on the night of December 27th to 28th. Search yielded no results. An icy hand closed around my throat. How do you know my full name? It's not public here. Everything is here, Liam, even things you don't remember yourself. Your dog, a collie named Rex, died when you were 7. He had a white patch on his left ear shaped like a maple leaf, and the scar on your left knee. You fell off a Schwinn Stingray bike in '95, riding on your grandfather's driveway in Ottawa. Here, in 1998, your grandfather is still alive. He's worried about you. I was silent, unable to make a sound. Those details were true, truth buried deep in private life. No social media, no digital trace. The scar, even my girlfriend didn't always notice it. What do you want? I finally breathed out. I want to get out, or for someone to come in. You disappear in 3 days, Liam. You won't be found, but you can come here, to me. We won't be alone. I slammed the phone down in terror. My hands were shaking. This wasn't a prank. This was something monstrous. I dialed the real police, not 911, but the precinct. My voice broke as I explained to the duty officer that I was being stalked. That someone knew too much, that they were talking about a disappearance. The officer listened with polite indifference. Sir, this is most likely someone's stupid joke. A lot of details from the past can be found if you dig. Are you sure you haven't posted this in blogs? Maybe your account was hacked. At that moment, my personal phone, lying next to me on the desk, vibrated softly. An MMS came through, from an unknown number. My heart dropped. I opened it. It was a photograph. A dark room, lit only by a street lamp through a window. On a bed, in a sleeping bag, was me, my own bedroom, my own, sleeping face. On the nightstand next to it, the digital clock glowed. 3:47. I glanced at the time on my computer. It was 3:48. Broken causality. A photograph from the future, from my own bed, arriving a minute before that future was due to happen. I mumbled something to the officer and hung up. Panic, pure and uncontrollable, washed over me. I yanked the SIM card from my phone, shut down the laptop, unplugged the router. I needed silence. Complete, absolute silence. I didn't sleep, sitting in the living room armchair, listening to every sound in the old house. An eternity seemed to pass. The clock struck 5 a.m. Exhausted, I finally fell into a shallow, fitful sleep. I was woken by a sound, not electronic, not modern, but a rattling, mechanical, piercing ring, the ring of a landline telephone. I didn't have one, hadn't for years. The ringing came from the living room, from where, in the corner, a phone table might have stood with previous tenants. Now there was nothing. The ring didn't stop. Insistent, demanding, driven by some beyond sleepy dread, I walked to the spot. The ringing grew louder, as if coming from the wall itself. I reached my hand into the emptiness and my fingers touched a cold, plastic receiver, tangible, heavy. Not thinking, I brought it to my ear first, that same blizzard sound from the receiver, then Noah's voice. He sounded tired, but with a hint of something like satisfaction. You disconnected. From there, had to route a new path. More direct, stronger. Don't worry, Liam. Soon the sound of the blizzard will be ours to share, soon we'll be in the same Christmas. For good. I flung the invisible receiver away. It vanished into the air, not falling, not making a sound. In the morning, leaving the apartment, I ran into my neighbor, Mrs. Garcia. She looked at me with concern. Liam, are you okay? All night from your apartment, it smelled like pine needles, very strong, like a Christmas tree lot, and there was a sound of scratching, like a fir branch against glass. I even thought you were having, well, a party. I nodded silently and hurried away into the cold morning. The smell of pine from my treeless apartment and the sound of a branch scratching against a non-existent window followed me. I understood the loop was tightening. He wasn't just calling from the past, he was paving a way, and for good. In his mouth didn't sound like a promise, but a sentence, slowly becoming real in my own, pine-scented apartment.